I'm the lieutenant at Fire Station 29. It's kind of tucked in behind the Admiral Theater. You've got a crew from Station 32, which is down in the junction. So you have a total of 8 firefighters here today. And all of us are on the same plan should there be a national disaster. Anything from Mount Rainier having an eruption, to earthquakes, to major storms. If any of those events take out the infrastructure of the city, we lose communication with our dispatch center downtown in the shadow of the Space Needle, where your 911 call would go. We have the capability of this battalion, Battalion 7, made up of 6 fire engines and 1 truck and 1 medic unit to operate totally on its own. Our radios will be turned to operate like a walkie-talkie, so we don't have to use the communication system that is going to be occupied by 911 calls and calls to your loved ones trying to get help or whatever. We have the capability to operate on our own. Should the earthquake happen, for instance, and we drill on this on an annual basis, we would secure all the services inside our fire station to include the electricity, the gas, the sewer, and any facilities of that nature in the fire station itself. And then we would start driving our earthquake route, which is pre-planned. But let me jump back to the fact that we secure our electricity, our sewer, and our gas. That's all stuff that you guys need to be able to know how to do at your house and at your condos. Because that should not be a 911 call. Know now how to do that, and you can turn it off should there be a leak in your house. You'll know there's a gas leak because you can hear it or you can smell it. You'll know there's an electricity problem because you'll hear it, sparks, whatever. Water, leak out of your wall or something. You need to be able to turn those systems off so they don't damage your house any more than necessary. So once we secure our fire station, we call our battalion chief on the radio, let him know all of our guys are okay, and we're starting our earthquake route. And we just drive a pre-planned route where out of the windshield of our fire engine or the ladder truck, we will make an assessment as to the damage that we see. And then we report that when we have radio time to our battalion chief, who is documenting everything that's going on in West Seattle from every fire engine that's out there driving their route. And he is prioritizing based on what we say on the radio and how we rate the event that we see, where companies are going to get dispatched to. We try to do the greatest good with the least amount of resources, because obviously there's like 30,000 people in West Seattle alone that are covered by a limited number of fire department resources. So they get prioritized. Obviously, if you're a single family home, which most of you probably are, you may not see a fireman like me for many days. You need to be able to care for yourself, be self-sufficient for upwards of 3 to 5 days, I would guess. Once we finish our route, we'll communicate with our battalion chief, and he or she will dispatch us to whatever they determine to be the worst case emergency. And it may be outside of West Seattle. The whole city just suffered the earthquake. We've got area in the Soto district, which is, we're planning to have it liquefaction, so most buildings will sink into the ground, essentially. We have over 500 buildings downtown that are unreinforced masonry still, haven't been upgraded, so those potentially are going to come to the ground, or at least fall in the street where our infrastructure has now failed. We can't get to the emergency scene in a normal manner. Depending on how catastrophic the event is, resources are going to be spread very thin. There is a plan to call off-duty personnel into the city, but you can imagine that's going to be a challenge because many bridges will be inoperable. And if you think about your drive home today, I'd wager to bet you're going to have to cross a bridge that, should we have an earthquake right now, may not be available to you. So even for you to get to your loved ones is going to be a challenge. So probably one of the greatest things that I see as a firefighter looking out here is you guys are here trying to develop a plan, asking great questions on where I get the information. But if you just look to the guy to the left and the guy to the right, there's where your help's going to be for the initial few days. And the plan that you have currently, or that you're going to make over the next few days, I hope, because of this meeting, is going to be what's going to sustain you. And even if your plan is totally wrong, at least you have a starting point, a way to, you do. And think about it. I mean, you look at the Seahawks, they come with a clear game plan, but sometimes they have to audibilize out of it because the other team did something that they didn't plan for. And we can't plan for all contingencies.
My name is Jim Britt. I'm the watch commander here at Southwest Precinct for 2nd Watch. Basically, that means I'm in charge of all the police response in the Southwest Precinct, which is everything west of the Duwamish River, from about 10:30 in the morning to 7:30 at night, whereupon I hand it off to the 3rd Watch commander, Lieutenant Floyd. Lieutenant Andrews alluded to it. The first casualty of any event like this is going to be communication, and that goes across the board. Cell towers are going to go down. And unfortunately, a lot of the radio systems are tied to those same cell towers. And so, much like the fire department, the police department's radios will immediately switch to a direct link communication, but we will lose the ability to dispatch directly from our centralized location. Now, the Office of Emergency Management, one of the things she didn't mention is their EOC is also built on these giant springs so that the building is designed to withstand just about anything they can throw at it. So they'll get that up and running just as quickly as they can, and they've got all sorts of other plans to try and get their communications back up and running. But there's an old adage that we've stolen from the military that we steal in police work and in firefighting work. No plan survives first contact. So that's where meetings like this come into play. We're going to do our best to get back up and running as a police department. We're going to do our best to get back to providing 911 services. I don't know if you know, but the standard is 7 minutes or less is the average for a response to a priority 1 call. You can throw that right out the window in the event of a major disaster like the one we're talking about here today. Because of communication, because of blocked roadways, because of personnel issues, we're going to do our best to work very quickly to get back to that. But in the meantime, like we've been talking about this whole time, you need to be prepared to handle as much of the business as you can on your own and within your communities. Like Lieutenant Andrews mentioned, looking to your left and right, getting to know your neighbors, which is more important than just a natural disaster. Knowing the people who live next door to you, knowing who belongs there, who should be at the house, who shouldn't be at the house, the weird car in the block, that's all just basic police stuff. But getting back to the emergency situation we're talking about here with the natural disasters, if you know your neighbors, you and your neighbors can come together and provide a lot of the services that we've been talking about here. Somebody who has extra food, somebody who has extra water, somebody who knows basic first aid, who may be able to assist you when the fire department can't get the truck through or doesn't know what's going on a side street. A lot of this comes down to you as a community preparing for those events. Now, the other thing we talked a little bit about here is Katrina. We've learned a lot of things from Hurricane Katrina. It's been an amazing learning opportunity for us, and as tragic as that event was, the lessons have not gone unnoticed. The department, Seattle Police Department, is constantly reevaluating, especially this year with our new command staff in place. We're constantly reevaluating our overall plans for response to these. One of those big plans includes, where are we going to get all the cops we need? Well, that's a political question I won't even touch with a 10-foot pole. But in the event of a major natural disaster, where are we going to get the police officers to put in the cars? We've got officers that are off duty. We've got officers that are now at work wondering if their house is still standing, wondering if their family is still alive. So you can imagine, while you're at home dealing with your families, we're at work trying to deal with your families while also wondering if our families are okay. Cell towers are down, can't get a hold of my wife, can't get a hold of my son. I don't know what's going on at home, but I still have to do my job. The department recognized that, and one of the problems we found in Hurricane Katrina was officers weren't coming to work because they were dealing with their own family business. Officers who were at work were leaving work to go deal with their own family business. And that's a completely understandable response. For anybody who's got a spouse or a child in this room, we all know where your priorities are. They're the same where ours are. So we're going to do our best to take care of our families. The department recognizes that and is working constantly on plans to figure out how we're going to get officers in, how we're going to send officers home, how we're going to set up that rotation. We used to have a program called Blue Gold, where we would go to an automatic 12-on, 12-off shift, and every officer would be on duty every single day with 12 hours in the middle to get some rest and handle all that. Those plans are constantly being reevaluated. Constantly being reevaluated to make sure that we're putting officers where they need to be. Other things we're doing is setting up resources in certain locations. Much like the fire stations, the police department is self-contained. So if need be, we can shut the precinct off from the outside power, outside gas, outside water, and we'll be self-sustaining so that we can run our emergency responders. But like it was mentioned earlier, if people are coming to the police station for their supplies, we have to supply the first responders with what they need to be able to come out and help you. So please don't come to the police station seeking those kinds of supplies. If you're in absolute desperate need, of course, always come to a police station. We'll do our best to help you. But please don't make that your first resource. We cannot be a food or water storage for the city in those situations. We're going to rely upon you to take the training you've gotten today and this week to make sure that your home is your food and water storage, to make sure that you can take care of yourselves as much as possible. 2 weeks is not unrealistic. 2 weeks is absolutely possible. A tree goes down in the right parts of the roadways in a couple different spots. A couple of key bridges fall. A couple of water mains break, a couple of gas lines break, and there are entire sections of this city that we may not be able to get vehicles to. At which point we're going back to the Old West where we're hoofing it, we're bringing in our mounted unit, we're bringing in our bicycles, we're bringing in our officers on foot. Now we've taken certain steps to upgrade our equipment with our PIUs, which are our police vehicles that are now larger and more robust. They're able to carry more equipment, they're able to go more places, but that's never going to be a guarantee. No plan survives first contact, and the first casualty is going to be communication. So the important thing is to be ready yourself and be ready as a community, and we'll do our best to be with you when we can. Can I take any questions?